Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, recently confirmed the ban on the public parade of criminal suspects by operatives of the Nigerian Police Force. This follows an earlier directive by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, prohibiting the practice. Now, several media outfits, including the NTA, have exclusively reported that the AGF had ordered the police to desist from parading suspects. In a statement on Tuesday, the Force Public Relations Officer, Muyiwa Adejobi, reaffirmed the police chief's commitment to upholding fundamental human rights and aligning with global best practices in policing. Tonight on NTA Tuesday Live, we'll x-ray the significance of this security adjustment in crime management. But first, the biggest story in the land today is the proclamation of a state of emergency in Rivers State. This evening, President Bola Tinubu announced it in a nationwide broadcast. We'll start off taking a close look at this development in Rivers State. And I'll be joined by Jide Ojo, a development consultant, author, and public affairs analyst, who will join us via Zoom. I'll also be in the studio here with Mr. Mike Ejiofor, lawyer and retired director of the DSS. And we'll also be joined by ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, who is the Force Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Police Force. And let's get to talk about the latest development in Rivers State. And I wonder if Jide Ojo is with us via Zoom. Jide, are you there yet? All right. And, Mr. Mike Ejiofor, this latest development, some would say they saw it coming, yet others would say this was shocking, a huge surprise, never expected that this would happen. Did you see this coming?
Well, I didn't see it coming, the declaration of state of emergency, but at the same time, I've been worried how this matter would have ended, because the two parties were unrelenting in their positions, which caused a lot of friction and threat, not even to Rivers State, but to entire national security. So it was quite disturbing when I had the president broadcast, but when I also had the meeting between the president and the service chiefs with the NSA, I knew something serious was coming. So I anticipated that there must have been a lot of deliberation before these decisions were reached, putting into consideration the various precepts and various security concerns, within the country.
Now, some Nigerians would want to wonder about the constitutionality of all of this. And it's not the first time that the state of emergency has been declared. And although some would say at some point in time, former President Jonathan declared the state of emergency in 3 states in the northeast as a result of the insecurity in that place. One that many would remember, which is more comparable to the current Rivers State state of emergency, is the one declared by then President Olusegun Obasanjo. I think it was in 2004, thereabouts, Plateau State, in which the governor and the assembly, the members of the state assembly were suspended for an initial period of 6 months. So there's been so many debates about how constitutional this is, and what happens, for instance, people ask the question and say, yes, the president has proclaimed with effect from today, and he has transmitted same to the National Assembly. Now, what happens if the National Assembly does not concur?
Well, there will be a stalemate, but I don't see the present National Assembly not concurring with the president's position. Like you rightly said, the Supreme Court has already decided that in the case of when Goodluck Jonathan tried to do the same thing, based on Supreme Court judgment, the governor was not removed. But in this particular case, like I said earlier, the two parties, the governor and the legislators, the state legislators, were unrelenting and were not ready to shift position. So if the president had asked the governor to continue, the legislators will accuse the president of favoritism and not looking at it. So I think it's a good decision that both parties were asked to go. The state of emergency declared so that they might go back and see if they could reconcile themselves, because this emergency is for 6 months, initial 6 months. Thereafter it could be renewed if they fail to reach a compromise.
Some see this as a huge setback for Rivers, and some might even say the current state of affairs with various groups flexing muscles might not immediately respond to this measure. Probably this would take a little more time for them to back down. Do you think so?
I don't see that. I don't see them backing down. I see a situation where this initial 6 months will be renewed. I don't see them backing down because it's not just Rivers. This is a lesson for our politicians, because I believe that our politicians don't think about Nigeria. They don't think about the country. They think about themselves. This is what is happening in Rivers. It's self-ego and all the self-interest, not thinking of the state. Now, all the parties have, but I know that some people might find, be jubilating over the situation, but that's foolhardiness as far as I'm concerned.
Well, others perhaps are worried that a serious breakdown of law and order would have taken place in Rivers without this. And some also point to the fact that insecurity played a huge role in this declaration. And, of course, economic reasons with the bombing of a major pipeline. That would have placed the country's budget in jeopardy. And, of course, that was meant to be one of the most important export outlets.
Well, I believe that was why the government took that decision. Early Tuesday morning, there were some pipeline vandalism and puncture of the lines. And the government should also not stop at this declaration of state of emergency. There should be complete mobilization of the communities, trying to explain to them what is happening, while at the same time to deploying the military to ensure that oil production is not disrupted. Because, you see, from 700,000 barrels per day, we are approaching 2.2 and possibly to improve on that. So anything that can cause that setback on our economy will be very, very disastrous. So there's need for federal government to explain, invite stakeholders from Rivers in particular, because anything that will affect our oil production in Rivers is not going to stop in Rivers alone. In the Niger Delta, this war is seen as an international war between some ethnic groups, not just power in Rivers State. Some of them making inflammatory, provocative statements, which is capable of even involving the whole country and not just Rivers State. So it's something that has to be handled carefully.
Well, this is where we bring in ACP Olumuyiwa. Dejobi, as we talk about law and order. The people of Rivers State, like all other Nigerians, deserve to live in a society where law and order prevails, with threats by various groups threatening to cause mayhem, one group fighting another group, one ethnic group against another. What does this speak of the general security situation, and how would this development now impact the security of the state?
Well, the Mr. President has spoken, and he has made pronouncements about River State. Our own job is to make sure we have adequate deployment, which of course I'm sure the IGP must have directed various tactical squads to move their men and assets to River State so that there won't be breakdown of one another. Aside from that, we are to work with other security agencies to make sure we protect all these facilities in River State. All I can say for now is that we're trying to study the situation and to make sure that we enhance our intelligence gathering capacity so that we can have more intelligence in this area. I know for sure that security agencies will take charge. There will not be any problem in that area.
Well, it's generally considered that in situations like these, policing suffers in one aspect because now attention is turned to various groups that are threatening security, life and property and all that. And so if for want of a better word, for lesser crimes, security agencies' attention would not be on those, and you find some people would take advantage of that. What do you say to a situation?
That will not happen because we have been proactive enough. Immediately we had the pronouncement, the IGP has issued some directives. Of course, you don't expect me to mention some of them on here. But the fact is, why police institution is used to having multiple task assignments at a time. Apart from our primary duty of protection of lives and property, we do secondary and tertiary duties. So it's not a new thing. It's not the first time we'll be having issues like this. It's not the first time we'll be managing crises like this. Even before the pronouncement, we'll be managing this issue in Rivers State and some other states like that. So it's not a big deal. We know how to handle that. When we get to the bridge, we shall cross the bridge.
I understand Jide will just join us now via Zoom. Jide, are you there? Oh dear. Well, you have just said this is a lesson for Nigerian politicians, that situations like this can arise if those that the people have freely given their mandate to run their affairs fail to do, to carry out their constitutional responsibilities. How so is that for the rest of us?
Well, just like I said earlier, it's a big lesson. Our politicians, almost all of them self-serving. You can look at various parts of the country who have political, socio-political challenges. And I also use this opportunity to appeal to the youth. Incidentally, we had a security summit today targeted at youths. And the youths are the ready instruments for this violence from the politicians. And my appeal is that they should not allow themselves to be used. Rather, they should work with government to ensure that things move well. For instance, if you have politicians, because all these crises we are having now are geared towards 2027. Everybody is working towards now. They are virtually forgetting governance now. Everybody is talking about 2027. So if you get politicians who mobilize youths, like I told them in that summit today, I said there's nothing wrong with that. if you decide to be used. But any politician using you, you should also ask the children to come and take the lead. If their children are not in the lead, they are not part of you, tell them you cannot go. They cannot be using other people's children when their children are schooling abroad and enjoying the best of life, and are using other people's children. So we must send this message down to the youths, because they are the instruments that are being used to destabilize the country.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, now let's get down to the business of the ban on the public parade of criminal suspects. Now, to set the tone for that discussion, let's get to see this report by security correspondent Francis Fom.
In a significant policy shift, the Inspector General of Police has ordered all commands and formations of the Nigeria Police Force to immediately stop the public parade of suspects before trial. The directive comes as part of the ongoing efforts to reform policing practices and align them with constitutional provisions and international human rights standards. For years, the public parade of suspects has been a common practice in Nigeria, often carried out by law enforcement agencies as a way of showcasing arrest. However, legal experts and human rights groups have criticized the practice, arguing that it violates the principle of innocent until proven guilty and exposes individuals to public stigma even when they've not been convicted of any crime. The IGP emphasizes that all officers must respect the rights and dignity of all suspects, ensuring that investigations are conducted professionally and within the confines of the law, warning that any officer found violating this directive would face disciplinary action. This latest decision aligns with the broader policing reforms under the current administration, aimed at enhancing professionalism, accountability, and public trust in the Nigeria Police Force. With this new directive, it is expected that law enforcement agencies will adopt more humane and legally sound approaches to handling criminal investigations. Francis from NTA News.
All right. ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi is the Force Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Police Force, and is here with us. This practice of parading suspects has been on and on and on for so many years in Nigeria. And the matter of putting a stop to it, this isn't the first time, is it? If I remember correctly, at some point in time, there was an Inspector General at one time who gave that directive, but no sooner than he gave the directive, it all fizzled out and it became business as usual. So let's talk about this.
Well, we have masters and we have masters. We have IGPs and we have IGPs. Mm-hmm. We've been having IGPs. This IGP is the 22nd indigenous Inspector General of Police. Previous IGPs have been making some, giving out directives and pronouncements on issues like this. But when it comes to the present IGP, human rights are so critical to him, protecting human rights, and he doesn't want any Nigerian to be oppressed or to be subjected to unnecessary harassment by any of our operatives. Not only in the police, he preaches such a thing around, and he has given directive. The IGP doesn't advise his personnel, he directs his personnel. And this IGP has issued this directive. Before this directive, if you follow trends or development in the police in Nigeria, he has made similar pronouncements or directives concerning protection of people's rights. It's the same IGP that said, before now, that said that a suspect should not be detained beyond necessary. If the law says you have to detain maximum 48 hours in the cell, IG will not allow that. He has given out instructions that even me, some senior officers, IG has given them, has empowered them. They can go to any cell and release any suspect. If you are not serious to prosecute your suspect, why using my cell, my facility, to punish or to keep a Nigerian? It's unheard of. So aside from that, the IGP is the same IGP who issued directive on so many policies, many projects in the police to protect people's rights. So far, all our foreign partners that have been working with us, they can testify to the fact that we channel our energy towards training our officers on how to protect people's fundamental human rights. So let me quickly correct that. Even the IGP that sent out the signal before the pronouncement from the Attorney General. It's not because IGC is not reactive to the statement made by the AG. Internally, a signal has been sent out. And you can, if you notice, even me, because before now I used to parade suspects once in a week.
We have
Thursday, Wednesday.
Right.
I've stopped it for long. If you notice that the IGP has told me, PRO, stop it. Then to see how we can actually cascade that directive to all formations and command was a thing that the IGP had to discuss with management team, and he gave directive to, we had a CP's conference where he made it known to them. So it's not because the AG has instructed the police to stop. The AG has been meeting with the AG, and the IGP has made it known that this is what I've been doing to make sure I protect people's rights. And apart from just mere saying it the way they used to say, this is how we do it different to the way it should be done. So the way it should be done is that let's have suspects again, before I leave, the same idea has given instruction that investigate suspect, get credible evidence before even arrest. We are going to that era that we want any suspect arrested is due for just simple investigation and prosecution, because you must have done a lot before you be picked. That's what the police will want in Nigeria, and that is the vision of the Inspector General of Police. Don't forget that his vision statement is to place a police force that is professionally competent, rule of law compliant, service-driven, and people-friendly. If you want to have a people-friendly police, you must do things that an average Nigerian will support, an average Nigerian will appreciate. So it's a welcome development. We have reviewed this, we have analyzed this, and sincerely, it's not going to have any negative effect on the criminal justice administration in Nigeria. Rather, people will see why the police should be embraced, the police should be supported to have, I can't say crime-free society, but at least crime to be reduced to be arrested minimum in Nigeria. It's a welcome development.
Okay, so Jeffo, you say this that practice was seen as a public trial before a trial, where a man was, and sometimes suspects were interrogated on television. I mean, questioned. Some of them, making confessional statements. And that was a huge challenge for a long time. And when it comes to matters of law, that's not acceptable.
Yeah. First of all, I must commend the IG for taking that initiative, because there's right to fair trial, fair hearing. If somebody is paraded, for instance, and is later found out not to have committed that offense, these are possibilities. He would have been brought to ridicule before the law, and the person can sue to enforce his right that has been infringed upon. Now, like you said in your intro, you asked that question, and many IGs have come, issued directives, like withdrawing of policemen to VIPs. Each IG that comes gives that directive, but at times it's not obeyed. The problem is not, the IG might mean well, but the problem is the enforcers. ACP Muiwa is a friend. I've known him since I was a director in Ogun State. And each morning I see one of his adverts or jingle that if police ask you to give a bribe asking for a receipt, who will ask the police for a receipt? These are well-intentioned. But when you come to implementation, it becomes a problem. But let it be known that the management has taken this decision And by the time one or two persons are punished for such an offense, I think it will serve as deterrent to others. So I must commend the police for taking the police needs to build its image, earn that confidence from the people. We have a lot of security, we are discussing security challenges. And if you don't have people-friendly police, they will not be ready to volunteer information to assist the police.
Let me ask you this. When that practice was the vogue, did it have any good sides to it? Was there any positive thing about that?
Well, it has, but that does not make it right. It has positive because there are some people who deliberately commit crimes and they confess openly. But due to law and technicalities, you go to court. You lose the case because of technicalities from the lawyers. And if such a person had been paraded, you have infringed on his right. But to me, honestly, it served as a deterrent, but that doesn't make it right.
Closely tied to this parade of suspects, we often see when it was a practice before, this pronouncement now that it had to be stopped. We saw not only the suspects being paraded, sometimes we saw arms and ammunition being displayed, claims that those were the weapons that the suspects
recovered, yes.
Right. Does this cover that as well?
Yeah. You can parade. Now you notice that we don't even show faces, no public parade or suspect again. But you can actually mention facts of those cases and exhibits recovered. We call them exhibits recovered. And the message is not just mere parading them. We want people to learn from, one, Nigerians to know the antics of these men of the underworld. Aside from that, we have seen those who, I'm sure Francis has been filing reports into this studio to show where people make arms, they manufacture arms. It's not just to arrest them, it's to dismantle the syndicate of these elements who cause pain, sorrows, and tears in Nigeria, on our land. So it's to me, experts will tell you that it has not actually shown deterrence in any part, that you see somebody arrested for a particular offense today, parade him, charge him to court, another person will still do. So in a complex society like ours, we have so many multifaceted approaches to tackle this problem. So whether we parade or we don't, the message, we still have other technicalities, other ways, mechanisms of reaching out to Nigerians to shun crimes. Majorly now, the IGP is using more than 80% non-kinetic ways of talking to Nigeria and curbing crimes in all areas in Nigeria. Many of them are not known, many of them are not in the news, but at least the effects, the positive effect, the impacts of our efforts are seen in the news. So the technicalities might not be in the public for security reasons, but the effects are there. And I can say that compared to what we had in 2024, the crime rate has gone down. And the mandate this year again is to make sure that we reduce crime rate at least by 50% in the first quarter. So if the IGP has given us this directive that every command and formation should drop its action plan, and the action plan should gear towards reducing crimes tremendously in the first quarter, second quarter, third or fourth. So we are very, very optimistic that I wouldn't know. I think the star is called, maybe the IGP is a mathematician, and he has his PhD in peace and security studies. There's no how this will not tell on the administration of the Nigerian police force. So, and I always want to give it to him because as a student of peace and conflict studies, I learned so many things from some of his policies, some of his ideas. And he's not the one that will just sit and give directive, he consults as well, even as the IGP. So we have deliberated on this. We have seen that we have more good things to come our way in the policing system than what we used to have in the past. And so far, so good. I can say the directive given has paid off. And to compliance, there's no how my PROs across the country, we post them, and there's no how a PRO will tell me, okay, I want to parade a suspect. You can't do that. And that's a major message to the subsectional heads. Once IGP has issued out a directive, I'm sure, and I've just saying it, RIECO need that all tactical commanders, head of department must comply. It's not negotiable. It's what we must do. So whether they're going to comply or not, have you seen anybody parading suspects? No, it will not happen. Because I am in charge of my office, and IG has empowered me to make sure such should not happen. Nobody will violate the directive of the IGP in my office. It's not possible. And I'm sure many senior officers too have done that. Commissioners of police have keyed into that. AIGs in zones, 17 zones we have in Nigeria. They have keyed into that. So, and that thing goes to other directives of the IGP that once the IGP has spoken, he has spoken. It's not negotiable. Now, whether I want to try and do this, no. You don't do that.
Let me ask you this. You speak for the police. How well is police public relations these days? Any significant improvement?
Yes, the PR has been improved upon in many areas. Don't forget, from the institute itself has undergone series of changes. I'm talking of the Nigerian history of populations. And some of us, before NIPR had been not so active. I don't want to say it had been dormant, but not so active. But the leadership now, the president, the council, all of them have taken the bull by the horn to make it a professional body itself by making sure we enforce the NIPR Act. You don't say I want to be a spokesman. I want to be a PR practitioner, and you not be a bona fide member of the NIPR. It's not proper. I am a member of the committee that the new leadership for NIPR has established. The former spokesman, defense spokesman, General Olukolade is the chairman of the enforcement committee. And we have arrested many people for impersonation. That I want to say, there's a difference between I say to somebody and you say I'm a PR person. A PR person he does so many things, not just to manage your image, but it helps you in conflict management because PR populations encompasses so many things. It goes beyond coming to television and blowing grammars. So it's a very tedious job, and we are specialized in that area. And the same thing has been replicated in the Nigerian Police Force, that we have complied. In fact, we got the award 2024 for the most compliant agency of the government in Nigeria by NIPR. That we don't see any PRO in Nigeria that is not a member of NIPR. It is not. It's a taboo. You don't do it. So we have complied and we are working. And there's no way you want to be a trained PR person and it will not reflect on your day-to-day activities as a PR person. So across the board in the police, PR has improved. Not to even talk of this area of digital media and citizen journalism that we do. If you are not a trained PR person, you are going to fail because the complexity alone of managing the media this time around, managing your image is another challenge. So it is with the system we have in the police and the way we'll be cooperating with the institute itself has assisted us a lot in making sure that the PR unit of the police has improved tremendously. To the extent that the IGP personally, we always attend the annual conference of PROs. We did it in Nasaba. We did it in Ibadan. We have done it, and IGP personally has been attending to tell our PROs that, no, this is how the way we do it. So we have improved, and we are still going to do more.
All right. Now, Mr. Michael Joe, for looking at this directive and the police compliance, carrying out, this directive to the letter, how do you think this will improve further the public perception of the police?
Yeah, public relations are about image management. And image management does not stop by just informing the public of the activities of that institution. I take the police, for instance. You need to build that confidence of the people by changing some of the ills, perceived ills of the police. Like you have, I'm aware, they have dedicated lines, with which, because some people will tell you, It's not peculiar to the police, all the security agencies. They tell you, I will not give you information, because if I give you, they will leak it. That is no more. They have dedicated lines. You don't have to see the person physically. But if you must, based on the sensitivity of the information you are going to give, then go to a very senior officer, maybe the DPO or whoever is the most senior person within the environment, to give you the information. So when you give information and it's treated in strict confidence, people will now be encouraged to give information to our security agencies. I'm just talking generally now, not about the police alone. And other services too should have dedicated lines. And in fact, I will even encourage, under President Goodluck Jonathan, there was this center for information where all the security agencies were gathered in one place. So we want to talk. Somebody will speak on behalf of all the agencies, either the police or the army, not speaking in discordant tunes. When the police will be saying a different thing on a particular incident, on the same incident, the army will be saying a different thing. So all the agencies too should find a way of networking between their PROs so that people will have confidence. The generality of the citizens will have confidence in management of information. Is very key and very, very critical.
ACP Adejobi, there's another aspect where citizens are worried about beyond the parading of suspects, and this is what is called arrest by proxy. What's the IGP's position on this today?
Thank you. There was a time too, there was a directive was given to our commands and formations that, talking of investigation and transferring of cases, indiscriminate transferring of cases, that a DPO or rear commander or CP is doing a case and you run the suspect. For instance, in Abuja, the suspect in Abuja will run to the AIGs on 7 that I want my case to be moved, and there will not be justice. The IGP has taken many bold steps in making sure we specialize and we professionalize our investigative units. In fact, it's a thing that the IGP has said that every detective, anybody who wants to work in the investigative unit or the police must be trained, must be specialized, must be trained, must be screened. You must have what it takes to be an investigator. He has done that, and it's a policy. And as I speak with you, mobilization and demobilization is going on in the first CID and down the ladder. He said it on our 33 management meeting on Monday that every investigative unit must reorganize itself, and there is going to be a standard operating procedure for the investigative unit of the Nigerian Police Force, starting from the first CID. Even with the appointment of the PAD other DIGs, or Kabaka, one of the newly promoted DIGs, he was a commandant police academy with Kano. The IGP has discovered that he has what it takes to reorganize the first CID. So, general investigation is going to change in Nigeria Police Force. Arrest by proxy is not allowed. It's even a sin. It's an abnormality. It's a taboo to us in our profession. That a father has committed an offense and you go to the house to pick the mother or to pick the child or children, as many as possible, it is not done. It's a sin. And we will not allow that. The IGP has said it clearly. And apart from that, the issue of investigating a case and using undue force to arrest, to harass, to intimidate. Don't forget, there was a time I made a statement that IGP was pickled by some attitude of some investigators that I want to collect money from a suspect in a case, and you are listing the IGP's name. The IGP said, we have to collect 2 million naira from you, 1 million for IG, so person, first PRO, 100,000. You will now have a list, a dummy list, so that you can be able to extort the parties or one of the parties. It is not proper. It's unfair to the IG that somebody will sit down in the state, whether Oshun or Zamfara, whatever, you are using his name, you are dropping his name. Some policemen do that. Some civilians do. Do you know some people leave fat on dropping the name of the IGP. They will collect money from suspects or their relations that I want to go and beg IG in Abuja, and they will collect to the tune of 3 million, 4 million, spoiling the name of the Inspector General of Police. Behold, this is an IGP who doesn't even take one kobo from his officers to go and do what? God has blessed him as an IGP. Will IGP now say then that CPO in Lagos, give me 5 million? CP Rivers, give me 5 million? It has never happened. So it's quite unfortunate that we have certain elements. And many of them are even civilians. That's the funniest thing, that they will say this is. So the many cases that we have that are now denting the image of the force are caused and are, of course, organized by some individuals who are civilians in society, denting the name. So arrest by proxy is a sin, it's an abnormality, it's a taboo. Let me put it that way. So, and our officers and Nigerians can say that the IGP has done that, and there's no how we now have some recalcitrant officers who are very stubborn, that they are deviant. It's in every system, not limited to the police. And that's why we have our internal mechanism to punish them, identify them and punish them. Let me tell you, it's not easy for even me as a person. There was a time IG was compelled to roll out his number, personal number of the Inspector General of Police. It's just for members of the public to have accessibility to us. I published my number. If you see now that this phone is there because it's on silence, so that I will not be disturbing you. I receive hundreds of thousands of calls every day. Everybody is calling this my line, and it's always with it. So the same thing applicable to our complaint response unit. Like Oga Ejiofor said, we have lines that we are rolled out. And we are still working with NCC through the office of the NSA to see how we can have toll-free lines so that Nigerians can even enjoy this the more. But we don't have the capacity to do it. We need to work with the NCC, work with NSA. NSA is taking it up, and I think very soon we're going to have all this. So, and like the Fusion Center you mentioned, where all of us always have the information center. The NSA has started it. We meet regularly and we discuss. There are some issues that even if you don't have joint press conference like we used to have in the past, we share ideas and we discuss. And most times you see that I speak more because my senior officers, my colleagues in other agencies prefer the police to speak more so that we don't militarize our democracy. Right. This is democracy, all of us, we are into it, and we are wanting people to see across the world that we have democracy in Nigeria and it must survive.
Okay. Well, I believe we're being joined in this conversation by Kemi Okendo of Clean Foundation via Zoom, joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Are you there with us? Yes, well.
Good morning. Oh, good evening.
Good evening. We missed you in the first part of this conversation, but I want to believe that you've been listening so far. The matter of parading of suspects, which is now a no-no for the police. What are your thoughts about that?
Good evening again, and just to state that I'm not with Clean Foundation anymore. I'm with Partners West Africa, Nigeria, and I was in the first part of the conversation. So it's in compliance with the laws, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, number 1, number 2, the Police Act, and thirdly, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. So the steps taken by the Inspector General of Police is in compliance with the laws governing the criminal justice system in the country. Thank you.
All right. So for those who have said, we've seen this trial before the trial, the real trial, and for those who, and sometimes we've found minors have also been on the line of the media, and this all goes up with sometimes what we call the media trial. How damaging had that been in the past?
The challenge with media trial is the fact that when you place somebody right before the screen and before the people and you bring it into the court of public opinion, if it's found to be false, there's no way to reverse what has been done. So you have scenarios where people's integrity has been put at stake. You have scenarios, again, apart from integrity, you have the challenge of the fact that we might be amplifying what is not there. our criminal justice system is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So it's like taking a position before the courts take a position on the issue before it. Before the courts, also before investigation is concluded. However, one is also mindful of the fact that pressure, again, from public, the police might in previous times be forced to be seen to be doing something. So you find the element of the media trial coming into it in a way to probably build trust or assure the public that we are doing certain things, we are taking steps in respect of the work that we need to do. Thank you.
Well, ACP Adejobi has promised that under this IGP, there will be no flouting of that regulation. Because we've seen it happen before, and many IGs would give these directives, and you find that after a month or two, it's back to the old business. He says it can't happen under this IG. You want to think that from what you've seen with this current police administration, tough talking is matched with action?
Added value that is on the table is the fact that the Police Act prohibits it. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act prohibits it. Of course, the Constitution prohibits it. Previously, Constitution prohibits it. However, there were no additional criminal justice laws that also prohibited it, right? So we are in the so with the laws, if the police or the IG rolls back on it, it could be seen as the IG himself flouting the laws that are supposed to safeguard or regulate the administration of criminal justice system.
All right. Okay, Mr. Ejiofor, for you to comment on this point here, we have tried to pick you out on certain aspects of this directive and how it would reflect generally on both the public and the police. He's admitted, the police PR, the police spokesperson has admitted that yes, you might find some recalcitrant elements who might flout one or two regulations, but that the institution of the police is quick to identify them and punish. And some would easily say the police is about one of the few agencies that subjects its own personnel to such stringent controls, and sometimes in the public view.
Yeah, this is not the only directive, but this one is clear enough because it's a constitutional matter that it cannot be flouted as long as this present IG remains. I'm very, very confident about that. But there are other directives that, and we're talking of building confidence, police building confidence, police changing its image, so that they'll be police friendly, people friendly. I'll give you an example. The IG will not tolerate anybody taking bribe on the streets or on the roads. But I want to use this opportunity. Travel between Okene, and I've said this in times without number, travel between Okene and Abuja, you have 13 checkpoints. I travel by road. And what are they doing? Makes traveling very, very uncomfortable. They will be seeing themselves. I'm talking of police checkpoints now. You also have army. You have task force. So for each, it makes travel very, very uncomfortable. And people will go against the police in such situation, parking of vehicles and all these things. I travel by road. I've never seen anywhere that the road is so policed. Between Lokoja and Okene, nobody is even stopping you. Police is there on standby, watching people, except you commit an offense. But this is the pathway. I think the police authority needs to do something between that. You build confidence. Talk to people. There's no way people... Then you talk of investigation. You are bringing professionals to do the investigations for them. Yes, we agree. But there are some people who will abuse the process by insisting on collect. Like I said before, every day you see the jingle. If the police had given approval for that, they wouldn't be coming with that jingle. So there are a lot of things, because police is the first line of action in internal security. There's no way you have presence of other security agencies like the police. In some local government, you have so many divisions. So we need to build that confidence for people to assist the police, because if you don't have a good police, then we don't have security. The question is, why is it that when you go outside this country for foreign mission, the Nigerian police and our security forces are judged the best in terms of performance? But in the country, it's the environment with which you operate. People don't want to get their license updated. They want to cut. You see somebody, before, police will not even ask you for money. You see they're stretching hand and giving out money. So police should also be able to arrest such people giving money. They rather allow them pass. But if you give such money without it, that's more reason I should ask you to park.
All right. So, as we prepare to round off, ACP Adejobi.
Well, thank you. Let me just say that this is an IGP. On the very lighter mood, I always call him additional. Additional means somebody has paved way for many things, because he's the first one to enjoy the 4-year tenured office of the Inspector General of Police. And I'm sure he has many assignments to carry out so that he can write his name with indelible ink. He has made certain things clear in the Nigerian police force to reform the Nigerian police force. You know, we've been hearing about the police reform. This time around, it's not a lip service. I'm very serious about it, and the IGP is serious about it. He has instructed all our units, particularly for internal, for accountability and oversight functions of the units, to do the needful to make sure that once the IGP has spoken, has pronounced something, it's a directive, and you don't have a choice than to comply. If you don't comply, you are going to have yourself blamed, and of course, you're going to face the consequences. The checkpoint stuff is, you cannot afford, for now in Nigeria, not to have visibility policy because of the system. We're going to have our men at various points. But the thing is, these points are, we call them stop and search points, not roadblocks. You can't have roadblocks again. We have observation points, we have stop and search points. There's nothing like roadblock. Let me clarify.
Sounds to me like just a matter of
roadblock
semantics.
is roadblock. You're going to see logs of wood, heavy drums, and you must move in a zigzag way. That is roadblock.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
No, except we are some state where the governors and the CPs have agreement that we must have roadblock. Anywhere you see roadblock is to the knowledge of the government and knowledge of the Commissioner of Police and the AIG in charge of that place. But not the area where a DPO will just wake up and go to the expressway and put logs of wood that I am DPO, I want to block this road. That is not going to work again. And we have tried our best to make sure that most of these observation points and stop aside points, the operations they are devoid of corruption and extortion. You've seen cases where an inspector was dismissed in Kogi. That video that said, "I am here. The president's in Abuja, I'm here in charge. Bring that money." The guy was dismissed. There are issues, but the guy was dismissed. No sentiment about it. So we cannot dignify corruption in the police for no reason. So the IGP has said it. He made a pronouncement that even no commissioner of police, nobody should come to his office that, Oga, I want to give you something. It's an offense in the office of the IGP. Oh. Many officers working in the IGP office were sanctioned for necessary administrative errors here and there that would dent the image of the police. And for somebody to be an IGP, he has risen to that status to protect his own name, to protect his integrity. And now that he's going to spend 4 years, he must leave so many things on the ground for us to see that this is what our own additional has done in the history of the Nigeria Police Force. So bail is free, let me reiterate.
Right.
Bail is free. When you get, but we have problems that people use, like I said, they leave fat on some of these problems. People negotiate for somebody in the cell and more pressure on some of these are men that, okay, I want him out of this. Most of those money, you say they have collected money. When I find out that it's because somebody had collected money and we even give maybe 1% or 2% to that policeman that is not smart enough. Because for us in the police, it's lack of experience, lack of professionalism, that you now ask somebody to go and bring money to take him on bail. Whereas, on the bail bond, there is a clause on the bail bond. Right. For those who sign, always read the document before you sign. Because there's a clause that's saying, I've not paid a dime to secure the release of my social person. And yet you are signing. Let us be very, very careful in Nigeria, and let's do things the way it should be done. I still repeat it, bail is free. Police does not generate money from bail. Okay. We don't generate that. And we don't have any provision for it. So
thank you so much.
Take note of this.
We'll have to leave the conversation here and say thank you so much, ACP Olumoyiwa Adejobi, Force Public Relations Officer. Thank you for coming. Mr. Michael Jofo, lawyer and retired director of the DSS. We thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And let me also say thank you to Kemi Okeondo, who joined us via Zoom from Lagos.
Thank you very much.
Right. Well, up next, the gender quota. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Make it not get Akko, but make get Lebe to take over. My name is Anita Alaire Asoa. I have always believed in hard work and dedication and using my platform to promote real change. Nigeria has millions of talented and brilliant women. Women, where we say they are HQ, their headquarters, they pump on its head. Yet we see the same pattern. Less than 10% representation in governance. No matter how much effort women put in, we are still underrepresented where it matters the most, leadership. It is not about taking over, it's about balance. When a woman has a seat at the table, it reflects everyone's needs. So like this, time to reach to join the movement. To join me, let's push for a Nigeria where leadership reflects the true strength of our people, men and women, side by side.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show. NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
An increasing number of countries are currently introducing various types of gender quotas for public elections. In fact, half of the countries of the world today use some type of electoral quota for their parliament. Now, the introduction of quota systems for women represents a qualitative jump into a policy of exact goals and means. Now, the hope for a dramatic increase in women's representation by using this system is strong. But what are quotas? And in what way can quotas contribute to the political empowerment of women? Tonight we have a panel to discuss this, but before we do, let's get to see this report put together by gender correspondent Mamso Damian Leti.
We have to recognize that girls and women are a gift. They have strength, and we have to unleash that strength.
Suffering daily from climate change, and to remember that it's about the environment.
Women raising high the Nigerian flag on the international scene.
We are happy we are coming on board. We are happy we are being recognized. But that will not stop there. We want to be recognized all over. We want to recognize in all ramifications of life as far as activities or whatever participation is concerned, especially politically, and then when it comes to also empowerment. We need to be empowered so that at the end of the day, our families will stand firm. The society will stand firm.
In governance, corridors of power, and places of influence, their voices are growing stronger.
We are not where we want to be, but definitely we are not where we used to be. And so we are moving forward, and our expectation is that, women will have a place where, women are recognized and also appointed in key positions.
On the other side of the coin is Adama, engulfed in her world of hustle to support her family, oblivious to the existence of the International Women's Day. For her sake, and that of many other women alike, striving or breaking glass ceilings, the International Women's Day became a global event.
Where did we make progress? What are the emerging challenges? Because the things that they discussed 30 years ago, they are not the ones now we are seeing. We are seeing new things that are coming, like the digital economy, technology. We even hear things about cyberbullying. There are new things. So we need to sit down to assess what is the progress that we have made in which domains. What are those gaps that are there? And what are the new challenges? And what will be the next steps?
While so much has been achieved, much more is still desired, considering the rising cases of gender-based violence, dwindling figures in elective and selective positions, among others.
Scientifically, it has been proven that if we don't have 30%, at least 30% of either men or women sitting at the table, development cannot be sustainable. The truth is that women have a way they look at life. Men also have the way they look at life. You understand? So when the two sit together, when the men sit together, when the women sit together to decide to discuss, that's when they have a complete photo of what is before them in terms of challenges. That is where they bring out complete potentials of their potentials, because the men will bring their own, the women will bring their own.
Political parties need to take action, intentional actions, to ensure that parties are structured in such a way that women take positions in the parties. And so I will appeal in this month of International Women's Month that quotas must be set aside for women, and that the national gender policy, which gives 35%, I understand it has almost risen to 50%, the national gender policy should be made to work, so that we have more women in governance, as permanent secretaries, as ministers, in elective positions.
We're not saying that men and women are equal. At creation, God created us different. But equal opportunity is what we are saying. Let there be a level playing ground where the woman or the girl is not coming on that stage already disadvantaged. She's coming on the stage with the assurance that whatever ability she has will be allowed to flourish, and when she deserves certain accolades, it is given to her.
The 2025 theme, Accelerate Action, calls for urgency and inclusivity in addressing systemic barriers and biases against women. Momso Damien Ati, NTA News.
All right, let me introduce our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program Bukola Edowu, who is Executive Director, Kimpact Development Initiative. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Right. And joining us from our Kano studio is Dr. Muhammad Mustafa. Muhammad Mustafa, thanks for being there tonight.
Very much for having me.
Well, two gentlemen are here and to talk about the gender quota pathway to inclusive governance. Let's start up this conversation with the role of men in championing women's leadership in appointive and elective positions at all levels of government.
Well, thank you very much. I think the role of men is very crucial and critical in championing women representation in governance, because one of the things we've seen over the years is we've seen the women championing their case, and most times it always looked like, okay, it's the women against the men, and as if the men doesn't really they are not interested in what the women are advocating for, or that it is not really the men are not in support. No, but what it means is that men coming on board to actually advocate for women in governance is actually a platform, and it's actually an initiative to really say, look, we are on board, we are together, we need to provide a balanced view of this particular advocacy messaging we are talking about. And I think the role of men is very, very critical, because when men provide leadership, when men are adding their voice to the issue of women, it accelerates it better. And I think that is the most important thing, and that is why many of us are pulling our weight behind this gender quota to make sure that governance really works.
How far have you carried this advocacy? I mean, to the grassroots, local government and subnational levels?
So it's everywhere. You recall that this is not even an advocacy that originates and then in Nigeria. Is something that is all over the world. It's an international advocacy. But let's bring it back to Nigeria. You find that this issue of gender representation in governance has been something that everybody is talking about. That is number one. Then the advocacy has gone from the local government level, from the ward level, and then to the national level. You've seen various initiatives. You've seen the men conference have taken place. We've seen traditional leaders committing to advancing the gender messaging, this advocacy, and we've seen even celebrating. Just recently, we see a lot of celebrating and media, women in media and media personality coming together to advocate for gender, quota in governance, and so it's always everywhere. And of course, when you look at the excerpt that was played recently, just before we came on, you also find out that you have women, both international, locally, also talking about this. And this is where you see it just shows that the environment and the atmosphere is ripe for women to take their place in governance.
All right. Let's go over to Kano, our Kano studio, where Dr. Muhammad Mustafa is, and we'll put the same question to you, Dr. Muhammad Mustafa. Let's share your views first about the question of quotas, and again the role of men in pushing for more representation, a fairer representation of women, either in appointive and particularly in elective positions. Dr. Muhammad Mustafa.
Thank you very much for having me. You see, democracy is about number. Democracy is about representation. If you look at the number of the registered voters in the 2023 exercise, you will discover that the men has about 52.5%, while the females have about 47.5%. And during each election, if you observe the turnout of women during election is very impressive. And there is nobody in this country, from councillor to Mr. President, that attend to position where he or she is without the vote of a woman. And if that were the case, to be fair to ourselves, as a fathers, as a husband, as a sons of a woman, we need to have representations of women at all levels, both from the local level to the state level and the national level. Now, take for example, the number of women in the Senate and the number of women in the House of Representatives is alarming. For Senate, you have only 4 women out of 109. And for the House of Representatives, you have 15 women, 15 seats out of 360. And this is alarming. So requesting or demanding for this quota is very important and is timely. And I believe with the constitutional review going on, with the caliber of gentlemen at the National Assembly, this issue of quota will see the light of the day, so that women will have representatives in the National Assembly at other level of the governance. And like what my brother Idowu say, the women are not saying they are having antagonistic with men. No, the women are there requesting for their rightful seats, in in the issue of governance and the issue of inclusion. And I believe with men and women coming together, we will achieve this.
Well, the bill which is seeking to provide special seats for women for the national and state assemblies is up in the House of Representatives. And unfortunately, in past assemblies, this attempt fell flat on its face. What are the things you think should be done this time around to ensure that all are carried on board and that this goes through, particularly when it goes to the states, the subnationals, because this is where now you meet the people, you come face to face with customs, traditions, and other such factors that have stood in the way of women being in appreciable numbers in governance.
Thank you. I think the first thing to really talk about is that this bill is not a special seat at all. It's just a bill attempting to create extra seat, because the word special, there is this connotation that it looks like, they are going to create a special set of women to come into the National Assembly.
The special wasn't referring to the women, it was referring to the seats, and saying that it's a temporary arrangement.
It's a temporary arrangement, an extra seat for temporary a temporary measure to actually bridge the gap. And I think Dr. Mustafa nailed it on the head when it was giving us those data. Out of 109, you only have 4 women. What percentage is that? Out of 360, you only have 16. Then you go to the State House of Assembly, you have 991 seats. You only have 54 women. So you notice that the percentage is very, very low. In fact, the International Parliamentary Union, recently said Nigeria is not doing well when it comes to gender representation. So when you look at that, what we are now looking at as a temporary measure to bring in more women on the table so that this legislation can have a balanced view. Now, and this is just to solve the issue at the elective offices. For the appointive offices, at least the executive, the president, the governors, they are doing well. They are doing their best, which we feel can be increased.
Are they really?
Yes,
even if you look at the number of women in appointive positions, it falls far short of the desired.
Very short. That is, but it's actually a step further from where we have been coming from, and that is why I said it can be better, it can be increased. And with this, they only have that power to do that. But for the elective, what we are now saying is that for the Senate, for the Senate, we're just looking at, okay, fine, the bill is actually saying, hey, an extra seat will be created for women, 1 per state. So what if this came through? You are likely going to have 37 more women, including the FCT, 37 more women in the Senate. And then that shows that you have more women, and then you can have more, a balanced view in terms of legislation, and then you have more representation. Then at this House of Rep, the same thing. And then at the state level, State House of Assembly, then you have 3, 1 representing each of the senatorial zone. Then you have more women. In total, if this bill is being passed by the National Assembly, in total, the National Assembly will have made history by creating extra seats that will be totaling 184 for women, both at the state and the national level, unprecedented, which has never happened in this country before. And the 10th Assembly is about to make that history. It's about to make that history happen. So, but what do we need to do is about education. We need to understand what this bill is about and the benefit. You see, we are losing. In fact, that is I mean the UN, the UNDP, United Nations Development Programme, released a report some time ago, and they said the sub-Sahara Africa, we are losing $75 billion because there is gender parity, because there is no gender equality in terms of governance and in terms of administration. And look at that. So when we scale it down, you now imagine the amount in billions of dollars Nigeria is actually losing. So what it means is that there is going to be balance. And like he said, democracy is about the people, not about a particular gender. And the people include the women, the men, the youth, the person with disability. So if democracy is about the people, it's about time to now have that representation. And again, it also shows that, look, when you bring women on board, for instance, this I used to mention, and it was just a known fact. Anybody can just fact check this. During COVID 2020, now, it was highlighted that the country that managed COVID very well with excellence and then that contained it very well are countries that are being led by women as at 2020. That shows their ability to manage, and we have seen tremendous impact women are bringing on board. We just saw Madam Amina, we just saw Okonjo-Iweala. We have the talent is there in Nigeria, the brains are there, the potential are there, and then we need to just bring it on board. Now, if you now look at the economic side, from the corporate side, you find out that the women are doing well. Look at most of the banks today, you find like about 40% of the banks today are being managed by women. And then it shows the kind of strength they are bringing on the table. So how do we now need to now translate that into the political field? And that is what this conversation of gender quota is all about. And I tell you, if this can be done, then we now begin to see accelerated development as we have been anticipating in this country.
Well, Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, yes, back to you in all of this. And we started off saying, let's see the men, what men can do to champion this cause. Obviously, the numbers are few for now. Do you see more men coming on this side, coming on board to push for more women's representation? Now, the factors that men are usually scared about when it comes to women holding such positions, how quickly do you think those stereotypes are being dismantled?
You see, if you remember, Nigeria is a signatory to many conventions, many protocols, and many committed itself to many international treaties. And it has been domesticated in Nigeria, but following it is very difficult. Now, coming back to your question, let me give you an example. In Kano, in 2011 and 2019, we implemented a series of activities and projects in promoting women political participation and inclusion governance. And what the strategy, we engage traditional rulers, we engage religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, over 100 of them. And will it be the kind of statement coming out from them was so encouraging, because there are even some senior ulamas in Kano who say if he has a daughter, he can allow her to come and contest favorably with the men. And these are some of the barriers. And starting with you to remove some of these cultural, political, and related barriers. And in the process, we are able to engage political parties. Most of these challenges came from the political parties. Most of the political, despite the high-level advocacy we did in Kano, engaging all the political parties in 2011 and 2019, but most of the big political parties denied the women opportunity to contest, even though they contested for the primaries, but they were not allowed. Then we encouraged the women to go for the smaller parties, which gave them the ticket. And they contested favorably. And there's a woman who contested for the first time, but they came second, some third in their local government, which is very encouraging. We show that, yes, if the campaign will be or could be sustained, definitely one day we'll reach a promised land. Take my state. For the first time now, we have a woman elected as a local government chairman into the Wada local government. You know? So this is encouraging, meaning we are coming. And there are some of us, the men, who are Hiposhi, who are supporting this women political participation and inclusion. Every day we are coming with a lot of strategy of engaging stakeholders so that we break that barriers that are stopping women from attaining those positions. And some of those barriers include the political party. Political party is one of the biggest challenges in achieving. But with this quota, we are demanding and requesting, it will really help and give women opportunity. And I believe the gentlemen in the National Assembly, I kept saying this, definitely will do the needful this time around. Because this is not the first time we requested or demanded for this quota for women. I think in the 9th Assembly, a lot of effort have been made by the civil society organization and partners in pushing, but they are turned down at the end. But I believe with the 10th National Assembly, we are going to reach the promised land. And I believe working hand in hand with the women, it will give more seats to the women. It will enhance development. You know, it will reduce the gap, you know, and it will give the women their rightful position to be elected, you know. And when you come to issue of the appointed position, we want to urge the state governments, the local government, because I believe in the last dispensation in Kano, a directive was given that each local government should have at least 1 or 2 female councillors, and it was done. You know, and it's very encouraging. And we're appealing to our state governors, the local government chairman, and Mr. President to look at some of these treaties we signed and see that how do we at least have 35% of women in appointed position, so that's not only elective, we are looking for appointed position as well. And this will not only empower and balance our democracy, but it will encourage participation, and Nigeria will feature in the global best practice of this our democracy.
The political parties, and here is where some say begin to, take the advocacy toll, because the parties. We did a program here, and at one point in time, someone expressed doubts if the parties actually think that women are electable. Right? It cuts across all the parties, even the big ones, where all they do is provide certain positions, certain positions to women, as just a token, and not allow them to take over. And we were asking, when will the parties begin to consider electing women as their national chairmen, national secretaries, and all that? So how much of this advocacy are you taking to the political parties themselves?
So this advocacy is in 2 major dimensions. One, the legislative advocacy that is going on presently, which talks about this extra seat bill, and then again the advocacy around policy, and this has to do with the political party. Of course, I think you are right. One of the things we have seen is that the political parties are not open enough in terms of women inclusion. And then in fact, one of the things we have done recently was to look at all the political party national ESCOs, and then you find out that in some political party, out of the 19, in some of the political party, they did not even have any woman representation at all. Then in some that have, they only have as the woman leader, you know, which of course some school of thoughts have seen as a form of tokenism, and it's just not that. But when I talked about the policy advocacy, is that look, political party also may need to look into their gender policy. They need to look into their constitution. Just imagine political party coming on board and say, oh, now if you have a national chairman, the vice chairman should be a woman, or the national secretary should be a woman. And then when you have such particular thing, one of the things you are doing is that you are opening up the space. Political party are opening up the space for more women to come. And if the political party has been doing this, probably we won't be talking about this bill today. Now, but if they can open that place up politically, at the political party level, is very, very key. They need to do that, in not only as in terms of their ESCOs, we are also talking about in terms of even the delegates. Because when you have put quota into your delegate system, that people that are coming to the national to come and vote. So there is a tendency that you are also being inclusive, you are bringing more women. And there are tendency, you remember sometimes ago, you have a woman in a particular political party contesting the primary to be the presidential candidate, and then you see the woeful vote she got. Probably, what if they have more women as part of the delegate, maybe that vote will have increased more than that. But what we are trying to say is that, look, political party need to do better, and the advocacy is going to them. However, one of the things, we are likely going to see a change in most of their convention as we approach 2027. Now, why am I saying that? Because when you look at this bill, now, if this bill is being debated, and as we have seen the traction at the House of Representatives, one of the things it's telling me is that everybody that are discussing this bill at the House of Representatives, giving it a nod, belong to one or two political parties. All of them belong to political party, because in Nigeria we don't have independent candidacy. So it shows that there is a synergy. It shows that, look, why the legislator are in sync with this bill. It also shows that, look, it's like they are like the representation of their political party, and that is what it really means. So one of the things we just feel could happen, and it should be going simultaneously, as this is going on at the National Assembly, at the 10th Assembly, the political party should also begin to look into their gender policy, into their constitution, to accommodate more women. And that is one way we can have an inclusive society. Now, it's been said that, look, you see, everything is about balance. You know, God created male and female. It's about balance. So when I'm sitting on a chair now, and I'm sitting comfortably because there is a balance. It has the 4 leg. The camera is looking at me. It's sitting on the tripod that have the 3 leg on the balance. So when you have that balance in the governance, in political party, we move far. We move further. Development happen faster, and that is one of the things we are looking at. I think one of the excerpts, somebody said, look, there is a way women look at life, and there is a way men look at life. So both of them coming together in political party, in elective position, in appointive position, in the legislative houses, in the executive arm of government, at the state level, all of them coming with a balanced view, then we are likely going to begin to see accelerated development. And I think this is very key.
All right. Well, speaking of having a balanced view, let me return to Dr. Muhammad Mustafa. And the next part of this conversation would deal with surmounting barriers, which in this time I prefer to refer to as cultural, traditional, and religious factors in parts of Nigeria. How do we surmount those?
Awareness creation, sensitization, engagement is very, very important. I tried it in Kano, and it works. There is no religious leader ulamas, we did not engage in my organization in Kano. And to my surprise, their responses are very positive. Likewise, the traditional institution, some were even made ambassadors to our campaign. And you'll be shocked to see them coming out to a public gathering of women and addressing them. There's a time we organized a rally of over 500 women. We went to the Emir's palace. Even though the Emir is not in town, but he sent a senior counselor to come and address them. And after addressing them, and give even an opening that anything that they need advice, they need suggestions, they are free to come to the palace. And that's how we continue throughout the campaign. And high-level religious leaders came and addressed the women, in most of the campaign. But you see, sometimes we assume there's barriers, because each state have their own peculiar problems, have their own peculiar challenges. And but if you strategically plan and engage those stakeholders, I'm telling you, you may not get 100% perfect, but you will get a majority of people who are interested and willing, but because they are not being contacted. Now, creating this quota seat for women will not only enhance women inclusion and political participation, but it will reduce the gender imbalance in our political life. Take, for example, now, we have almost over 150 different committees at the National Assembly. But more than half of those committees, there's no women representatives in those committees. There's no women in those committees. Where are the women? When you have 4 women here, you have 14 women there. How will they cover all the committees? So reducing that gender imbalance is through this first advocacy we're doing of getting a quota seat for the women at the National Assembly. And I believe, coming back home, this campaign should not only be continue at National Assembly in Abuja, but here we are also engaging our representatives, both Senate and Reps. What are you doing? What are you? When you are contesting, majority of people who voted you are women. Now it's time to pay back. Now it's time for us to see you standing up at the chamber or at the gallery, making input about supporting women. So I urge our partners who are pushing for this quota, whom we are working to, not relenting only at the National Assembly, but let them come back home, let team up together at front line, at the grassroots level, start talking to our representatives here, So before you even go to national, we already meet them, we discuss, and we will be watching to see what are your role. If you did not do the right thing, you come back, the women are watching you, they have the vote, About 47% of the voters are women, and you will not joke with that number of women in this country. And like I always said, I believe our representative at the National Assembly are gentlemen, and I believe they have wives at home. I believe they have daughters at home. I believe mothers are the ones who born them. And looking at these 3 pillars, I believe they will do the needful and create these quotas for women representation in National Assembly and other tiers of government as well.
Right, we have a call coming through. This one is from Olabori, who's calling in from Lagos. Hello. Good evening.
So, my contribution straight to the point is that one, you have to look at it from the perspective. In family setting, how many families used to build confidence in their daughter to lead at home? Because if you really want participation, you have to, as a parent, project your daughter to give them confidence that they are a leader, that assigning a task to them to lead the family in one or two tasks. And by so doing, you are making them to have self-confidence that they can do something to lead the family. Giving them a day, giving them a task, giving confidence in them. That's number one. Number two is that if that confidence starts from the family, it goes to religion. In our religious setting across the nation, how many religious organizations can we point out to in the north, the west, the east, south, that give women actually leadership either in teaching, in preaching, or taking those bold decisions? And now, if that one is lacking, by the time somebody spent 25 years of his life being subservient in the family, in the religious setting, when it comes to political party, it shows everywhere. When you carry a child from school in the car for 25 years, by the time they get to the public, the timidity is already there. So it has always been male-dominated environment, and we have to first of all go back to the basics. How do we instill leadership capacity in the ladies? Then, when we create that space for them, you embolden them to say, okay, I can do this. So when it comes to political parties, when people are seeking for power, it is not emotional. Nobody will sit down and say, okay, I don't want the best for myself. Everybody wants that power to fend for themselves. So when they are saying that political parties should seek power to ladies, women or this, you can see it will be very hard to work, especially in Africa, because people have targets from day one. I want to be a governor. You cannot now get to that epic center. Somebody said to go and sit down for a woman. I think for the purpose of time, I will stop there. But we have to start from way back. Family, religion, school, before you come to the larger society. That's my little contribution tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Olabode from Lagos. At this point, we'll take this message. All right. Back here in the studio, and we have Bukola Edo, the Executive Director, Kimpact Development Initiative. And we're considering the push to have better women's representation in both appointive and elective positions, and trying to get to understand the gender quota. And some might just ask that, well, it's all right, well, it's okay to have a gender quota, but on a general scale, what does it do to the principles of liberal democracy? Is that a violation? Yes, well, we need this to bring a balance, as you said, but is it in any way violating the principle of a liberal democracy, Fred?
No, I don't think so. It's not. It's not a violation of liberal democracy at all, because as it is, one thing we need to first of all understand is the electoral system Nigeria is practicing, and which is called the first past the post. It's just simply, in a simple term, plurality, majority carry the votes, and that is what it means. And that has been what people have even said, look, this is not representative enough. So, for instance, now, you see, in some other countries where things have worked, it shows that, look, the representation. For instance, now, you see, people get seats in the parliament based on the proportion they get at the votes. So that is representation. That is the representative aspect of the vote. But in our case, we do first past the post, which is simple majority. So which means if the opposition have 40% and you have 60%, the 40% of the opposition is not counted at all. Right. You just go right there. However, some have argued that that is not representative enough. And that is why we are now saying, look, what in some of the countries that have corrected this have used this temporal measure to correct that, because we are not doing representative system of our voting. So the best way to correct this is to now have a temporal measure that brings in this quota, and that is what it is.
All right, we have another caller on the line, Patrick, calling in from Benue. Hello, Patrick, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. Issue it looks simple, but when it comes to practical terms, it will be difficult to achieve, in the sense that which situation like woman or political party who could have out and to face arguments like a woman to or the position of
I'm afraid, Patrick, your line isn't very clear. I will find it extremely difficult to hear you and understand what you're saying.
It's not. Just as analyze, it looks so simple. So that is it. Because no political party would like to lose an election when it knows fully well that the competitor or is either a man who, when it faces the woman, will eventually lose or will not be able to get. The area where we see that.
Oh dear. I'm so sorry, Patrick. At some point we thought we could get you, but line wasn't too clean and there's a lot of interference there. So you might want to call back and lend your voice to the discussion here. Now let's get back to our Kano studio. Dr. Mohammed Mustafa will begin to wind down on this program. What are the key issues you think should be focusing on? As they say, change is the most difficult thing to adopt, and as we push forward to getting this temporary measure to take root so that more women can be in governance, what are the key areas you think we should be watching out for in changing attitudes?
Dispute Resolution and Development Initiative, formerly known as Democratic Action Group. For the past 10 years, we are working in this area. And one of the key areas, key issue we need to push is the engagement, high-level engagement with the political party leadership. I could remember in 2019, we commissioned a consultant who did a survey for us at both all the political parties in Nigeria, at both national and state level. And we discovered that all the parties, they have gender policy. And when we look at the structure of the party, you discover that there's only woman leader. Sometimes you have 22 or 24 leadership at both state or local government, but you see only 1 or 2 women. So from there, we started engaging the political party at the level, So it is very, very important. The political party should be engaged at that level. That's one of the key areas. The second thing is for our women who are interested in contesting. I always say this, that you need to participate actively in the political party affairs in your constituency, so that when it's time, by the time you declare your intention, nobody will come and say, why is she when we are supporting? Why is she when we are managing the party? So that is one area that I feel our sisters who have the passion to come and participate in the politics, to start from the grassroots and be active, you know, and participate in all the party activities. Take your rightful position, mobilize more women at the grassroots level. The third area, which I feel is very important, is engaging stakeholders. When we say stakeholder, religious leaders, traditional institutions, you know, and even gatekeepers, you know, as well as the political party leadership. In Kano, one of the strategies we employ was that we engage even those elected, those appointed, including the women who have been in appointed position. We engage them. We engage various men groups, various actors, men, because this movement is not about antagonism. No, it's about carrying both men and women together so that we will reach the promised land. So I feel if we can involve everyone, show importance of both male and female in this movement, in this campaign, you know, make some ambassadors so that they can support those who can, when they speak in the community or at the state level, people listen to them, you know. So there's a lot of strategy, but I feel these are the key ones that we should focus on. And sustain campaign. Most of the time we start campaigning, you know, we start engagement, but as time goes, the campaign will not be sustained, you know. So sustainable campaign is very, at both national, subnational, state and local government, is very, very important. Thank you.
Very much, and back here in the studio, Bukola Idowu, as we prepare to wind down, what are your closing comments on that?
Yeah, I think all hands must be on deck for this to work, and it's not something the civil society can push alone. And I'm happy looking at if you look at the bill at the House of Representatives is being sponsored by the Deputy Speaker himself. It shows the interest they have in that, and it also shows, and when you look at majority of the people that are also the co-sponsor, they are also men. So what it means is that all hands must be on deck to just make sure that this work. And I also believe that the House, the National Assembly alone cannot get this done. Now we need to make sure that the conference of speakers, all the speakers of the state houses of assembly, we have to play their part. The state legislature, we have to play their part, and the executive, the attorney general of the federation, everybody must play their part. And then we now move into the political parties too. They have to play their part. But above all, I see that, look, when this is being implemented, which I believe the 10th Assembly will make an history, then we're likely going to begin to see accelerated. Not because we don't have development before, but we want to see an accelerated development through inclusion.
Okay, all right. We'll have to leave this conversation here, and thank you to our guests, Bukola Idowu, Executive Director, Kimpact Development Initiative. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, who joined us from our Kano studio. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Right. Thank you.
Me.
All right. And that's our program. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.